Hey folks, welcome to Free Press Sports with Carlos and Shawn. Welcome in, Carlos. Not that it's my podcast, it's your podcast, but how about this? It's good to see you. We're going to talk about your two favorite sports, the Red Wings and the Tigers. One team is hanging on for dear life. The other team couldn't hit until the ninth inning in Pittsburgh recently and somehow came up with a win. They're over 500. So that's something, right? 11 games into the season, 10, 11, 12 games into the season. I think as we record, somewhere around there. But we're going to hold off on the Tigers for a bit because the Wings are holding on for dear life. They've fallen out of the last wild card spot in the Eastern Conference. They now trail Washington Capitals by a point. They are tied with the Pittsburgh Penguins, who each have, I want to say, 84 points. Washington has 85 points. There are 4 games left in the season. You can get and look at all 3 teams' schedules and try to figure out who's got the easier path, who doesn't. But it's hockey, man. All I know is I was at the Wings game the other night. They doubled them up in shots. And what does that mean? It means nothing. The Washington Capitals had more chances despite almost 20 fewer shots, maybe 20 fewer shots. And this is not that I want to get on a soapbox about hockey, but I thought I was 1997 and I was watching the puck possession Wings just pepper the goalie over and over and over. And it doesn't matter because one breakaway the other way, one mistake the other way, and you lose the game. So how do you defend your sport?
Well, the way you defend it is anything can happen. It's not just, 1 to 100 by twos. So you have to be vigilant on both sides of the rink, and that's what's great about it is you can't just say, hey, we do one thing really well and that's it. And we don't have to play defense. We don't have to have James Harden out there who doesn't, know what even defense is. So that's the good thing about it is, you can't not watch the game. And, Derek Lalonde, that's one of the things, a big thing he's preached is responsibility with the puck on both sides, offensively and defensively, making the right pass, making the right play in the O zone, and also getting back on D, making sure that the other team doesn't break away. It doesn't take much in hockey. That's the fun part about it is that, you have a chance. Any team has a chance on any night, generally speaking. Talent wins, talent, leads the way, but you have usually 4 lines of offense and, your stars, if the deeper you are, the better chance you have, 3 lines on defense, 4 lines on offense and talent really helps you with that. The Wings probably don't have quite enough depth to do much in the playoffs if they even get there, and that's the whole debate, right? With your BFF, Steve Yzerman, and the construction as a roster. Has it been too slow? Has it been fast enough? Has it been adequate? Has it, this year finally gave him a chance to, I'm not going to sell at the trade deadline. Let's see what happens. Dylan Larkin goes ahead and gets hurt right away. And then they take a nosedive. So now here they are, 4 games left, hanging on by their fingernails. Are they going to do it, Shawn? Are they going to make the playoffs and finally get you on the road to a playoff series?
Well, no, that would take a couple of wins, and that would probably take the Eastern Conference Finals for me to get on the road.
Oh,
so maybe the second round, but I don't see.
You remember how batty this place is when the Wings make the playoffs, and people would get excited, and the traffic for our website, and you would be on the road. Of course, you would.
No, I think it'll be you to start, and then I'll join you if they make a run. I think that's how it would go. That's how it should be. But in any case, do I think they get in? No, because they're 2 teams. If it were just Washington or just Pittsburgh, and by the way, they play Pittsburgh Thursday night, so obviously that's a must-win game. They got to beat Pittsburgh.
Hot Penguins right now.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, the Capitals came into the LCA Tuesday night having lost 6 in a row, but they'd been on a hot streak before then. So maybe. In fact, the team's kind of reversed. I think the last time the Capitals, the Wings, what was the score of that game when the Wings beat the Capitals here? Like 8-3. They just blasted them. And then the Capitals went on a winning streak from there, and the Wings went on a losing streak after that one. So you know how these things work. It's just momentum is a funny thing. The Capitals aren't necessarily a great team, but they got a couple of good goal scorers and a goalie who's, at least with the Wings, capable of shutting everything down as he did Tuesday night. So I don't know. The math is there, but it's also difficult math, right? 4 games left, a point behind. you control a little bit because you play Pittsburgh. You got Montreal twice. That's another thing. People are thinking, well, those are 2 wins. Montreal's not very good, but that's hard to be the same team back to back, no matter what team, because to your point about hockey, anything can happen. So
it's hard to beat any team back to back, probably in any sports. Hockey for sure. It's a home and home, right? And the Capitals. To me, I'm curious because when this is over, I'm assuming the Wings will not make the playoffs because I think you pointed out in your column they don't control their own destiny, because they're outside of the bubble right now. But when you at the end of the season, we talked to Steve Yzerman, and sometimes he's pretty honest about moments in the season that kind of, benchmarks that made him look at the team or the season a certain way, and this game against the Capitals with everything, so much writing on it, such an important game at home. You have that advantage. The last line change, they come in stone cold. They come in, by the way, Capitals right now, one of the things, goal differential, minus 40 goal differential. Like just the Penguins and Wings, +4, +2, that's usually kind of where you are in the bubble, a few goals over, but you're minus 40. I don't even know how can you even be in this position? I mean,
how do you have a winning record, right?
How do you have a winning record? How do you have wins? How are you even in this position? Because you're somehow getting, and it was a 2-1 game, but still, this is not a team that you should be losing to. It's a major indictment. And I know, Lalonde was asked about this, I think, before the game. Are you giving these, Dan Campbell-like speeches? But he's like, no, it's hockey. It's not 16, 18 games, whatever it is, 17 games. I can't do that every night. And it's true, but something's not right here. Something's missing. They certainly, threw a lot of shots at the goal. Was it 42? I think it was. And
42 or 43.
So it's not like they were tentative or whatever. And they
were aggressive.
They just can't. There's something missing in whether they need more players, or they need a different message. I mean, Lalonde is going to be under the microscope next year. If they struggle out of the gate, the people right now are not happy with him. If they struggle out of the gate next year, he may not stick around. It's good to have. I appreciate, his message. I think he's right. I like what he says. I like the way he looks at the game. He's a smart guy. He seems to have some, sound strategy behind him, good assistant coaches, power play coaches, Alex Tangate, but it's not working, right now. And the Dylan Larkin thing, yes, losing him hurt for those 8 games, but you can't pin everything on it. And I think that that Islanders game or the Capitals game was terrible. They don't have a good history in Pittsburgh of going in there and winning, so they have to be careful. But you're right, Shawn. I mean, those games, playing against the Maple Leafs, one of the best teams in hockey, is going to be tough.
Unless they sit some guys, right? I mean, maybe I
don't know. They still have something to play for playoff seeding. You still want to give yourself the best chance at home ice. I think they're in a decent position in the Atlantic to possibly take. Yeah, who knows what they may have to sit some guys if they can. And then the games against Montreal, we talked about this with Helena last week. Those games in Montreal, if it comes down to those games and they lose one of those games to one of the worst teams in hockey, oh boy, that's a major indictment. But it's also an opportunity. That's a present for them, getting to wrap up the season with a bad team, 2 games. You were at the game yesterday. I mean, what are they doing? I mean, it seems like they have energy, but it's just
their energy was great. Their aggressiveness was really good. It was. I mean, they controlled the puck in a way. I mean, they looked as good in a lot of ways as they have in a while. And I know they've been playing a little bit better lately overall. But what I thought about watching last night was, and here's the thing, you want to talk about Derek Lalonde. And look, I get it. Football is very different, the rah-rah, all that stuff. But the season was lost. And I don't want to discount Dylan Larkin. And you say you can't pin it on one guy, but you can. And that's the indictment on Steve Yzerman. That he matters that much. Because there's just nobody else like him on the team, not even remotely close. And it's not like Larkin is a superstar. He's a really good player, but he's incredibly valuable to them because their margin's so thin. But I watched last night thinking, how in the heck does a team that was in the position it was in come out so flat for that stretch? Now, again, Larkin missed part of it. But how do you come out against Arizona like they did? I mean, that's where, if they don't get in the playoffs, it's not going to be this stretch. with all this pressure. You're at the mercy of the posts and all the other hockey guys and everything else. They played as hard as they could last night and couldn't find their way into the net. To me, it was a matter of the focus and intensity, weirdly, in that stretch. And I get it. Look, it's a long season. The NBA is the same way. Baseball's the same way. Any kind of long season, you can't bring that focus and intensity every single game. I mean, maybe a few players can, but as a team, it's really hard to do. So I understand there's going to be a little bit of ebb and flow, but that ebb lasted a little bit too long, and it was always the same way, right, Carlos? It was weirdly flat first periods. Who has to take responsibility for that?
It wasn't always flat first periods. I mean, I think it was a combination of they couldn't hold on to leads when they did have leads in the first period. To me, the clear thing is the defense. They cannot. It's really hard for them to win 1-0 games or 2-0 or 2-1 or whatever. And part of that too is as good as Alex Lyon has been, Revelation kind of getting a little lucky. Let's be honest. They don't have an elite goaltender, and they've gone through a lot of goalies, Nedeljkovic and Husso and now Lyon, and they don't have somebody there who's like the dude. So it's been problematic on the back end. I think their offense has gotten better, but the back end has been inconsistent. And, sometimes it has been the starts. Sometimes they've lacked energy or whatever initiative in the first. And sometimes they've had lulls in the second period where they've just been flat. And then they got to do something in the third period about it. And that consistent, like you said, it's 82 games. I mean, you just can't be the same super, focused and driven every all three periods. But yeah, they need to. The question is, where is that messaging coming from? Why are people not? Why are these lulls? Why? I mean, it's one thing for guys to be cold, like Alex DeBrincat, stone cold, right? And it's not for lack of effort. He's missing shots, he's hitting posts, whatever it might be. I don't think that's a long-term concern, but I don't see enough of. This hasn't come out, but I don't see enough accountability being, players being benched basically because of accountability. Not that I can point my finger at somebody, but certainly the coaching staff sees some problems sometimes, and maybe, I don't know, maybe DeBrincat does need to be back. I don't know. Like that's kind of stuff that only maybe the coaching staff sees that we don't see, how he's working, how he's, whatever it is, his practice habits. Who knows? But when you're that cold, and they've changed the lineups, they've moved guys around on the different lines, trying to get. That's another thing. There hasn't been a lot of. I mean, hockey teams do this, but there hasn't been a ton of consistency, especially even for the first line, where they move people around. So it's not like there's like Lalonde's doing nothing, but whatever he's doing hasn't worked in a consistent enough way, And that's where it's going to be after the season. We're going to have to figure this out because you can't just be, upending the checkerboard all the time and hoping for something better.
No, you got to be able to get certain kind of goals too, which they're not equipped to do. In fairness to Lalonde, I guess, yeah, he has tinkered with the lineups a little bit, the first and second lines in particular. Putting different guys with Larkin, right? Putting the different guys with Kane and
moving Kane around.
Yeah, exactly. So, but those guys are all relatively small guys, and last night there were at least 3 chances, maybe 4 chances, maybe more now by the end of the game. But early on, and by early on, I mean, first period, well into the second period, there were rebound chances, right? And they just don't have big wingers with good hands that can put those pucks back in, because you got, to me, that's kind of a gritty way to score a goal. You crowd the net, you get in there, and then maybe the bounce comes your way and you get it back in. It seemed like every time a puck bounced out last night, the Capitals were there first. You can say, okay, maybe that's luck, and that's fine, that's true, but they're still not built in a deep enough and around enough way, right, to be able to score in all sorts of different ways. Yes, the defense. I mean, you were not wrong at all. The defense is an issue. There's no question, and they don't have elite goaltending. But it also comes down to the offense to some degree. And I think they miss big wings. And then I just don't know how much skill, like Patrick Kane had a couple times last night where he had an opening, he tried, and you're thinking, okay, if this is 10 years ago, that might have led to a goal, right? So as good as he's been, that's not prime Patrick Kane. No offense to him. And DeBrincat he's a scorer in a different kind of way. It's not. It's just tough, and I know it's hard to find those kind of guys. But this has been a complaint of the fan base for a while, and it's part of it's bad luck with him, right? Elena likes to point out all the time the lottery luck. Finding those guys usually means getting some luck in the lottery, and they just haven't had that. So I'm with you on the offseason. They're going to have to figure out, because you're right. At some point, the slow starts, whatever. Talent's still an issue, and I talked about the top of the last thing, Carlos, the top of the show. Yes, anything can happen in hockey. Luck is a part of hockey. It's what makes the playoffs so fun. Absolutely. But the more talent you have, the more chances you have. The more chances you have, the more chance you have to get lucky. That's kind of how I see it in this game. And you need skill that eventually leads to being in the right place at the right time. Unless you just got Datsuk out there whirling around. And I don't think this team has that.
I think that you do need talent, but to me it's talent, but it's depth, because like we said, you got 4 lines, primarily 3. Those guys aren't, they're on the ice for 20 minutes. You can't have Connor McDavid out there for 60 minutes. You got to have other people, and like the Oilers have had that problem. Is Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl are amazing together, but that puts them on one line, and then that weakens the other 2 or 3. So they've shuffled them around in the playoffs. They do a little bit different, and as my Kings had Wayne Gretzky for a while, didn't get him a cup. Best player of our generation, and it doesn't. You need to compliment people. You can't just have a superstar like, okay, we got our number 1 overall pick. We got how many cups have the Oilers won with Connor McDavid?
No, but real quickly, no, I'm not saying you only have to have that. You have to have both. There's not been a team that's won a cup without a superstar. Maybe St. Louis. I think you have to go back to St. Louis. They had a lot of good players, a lot of really good players, and a couple of those guys are on the wings now, or at least one of them is. I'm trying to think, Perron, for example, right? But that, no, I'm with you. You got to have depth, but you got to have both, right? Don't you?
Yeah, you got to have both. And I just don't think that you can say, well, you can't really, it's okay, for them to not be making the playoffs because Yzerman hasn't had a 1-1, right? I mean, until he gets that, or a 1-2, then it's really not fair to, you can't wait for that to happen. And I'm not talking about winning the cup. I'm talking about getting into the playoffs and making some noise in the playoffs. They certainly should have enough by this time to find those guys. And they were making a move toward that. Last year, they were making a move toward that. He sold some guys and traded them away because of expiring contracts. Okay, fine. It made sense, whatever, but it scuttled any chance. This year, he kept them intact. And so let's see what they have. And then, you get some injury bad luck, but you can't just be waiting for that number 1 guy, number 2 guy to bail you out. And well, that's what we're missing, and they certainly have. I mean, and Yzerman gets credit for adding guys like, trading for DeBrincat and signing Patrick Kane, finding Alex Lyon. That's another one, right? That's really worked out. And he's done a good job for the most part with the moves he's made. He's probably, to me, I think, been a little bit too not aggressive enough, I suppose, either in the trade, around the trade deadline, maybe in the offseason a little bit. I mean, he's made a lot of moves, but he hasn't given up enough to say, hey, look, we need a fundamental change here. What do we need? We need like a Nick Lidstrom, a big time player coming here. Now, I'm worried about Patrick Kane leaving. I don't think he's going to want to. For a while, the question has been, should they try to sign him? He's whatever it is, 34 years old. Should they try to sign him to a 3-year deal? Is he going to want that? I don't know. Patrick Kane's going to want to come back. Like, look at this team. They can't even make the playoffs. They're nosediving here when it matters most. He wants to win a title, a cup. He doesn't want to be part of a rebuild that inches into the playoffs. So I'm worried about him not coming back because he's made a big difference. But I don't see it this year, Shawn. So I think you're gonna have to wait for your Marriott points maybe for another season. But I give him credit. It's been a step. it's been exciting. It's been interesting toward the end of the year instead of just playing out the string like they have for several years now. It's going to be the, I think, 10th year that they're not going to make the playoffs if it doesn't happen. But they still, as you said, they have a chance. It's not impossible. They can beat the Penguins. It's happened before. Even
and Washington could lose, right? They could lose a couple times. You just don't know. That they're a weird team. Your 40-goal differential they don't
belong there.
No, but the weird thing about them is that they lose, they get blasted, which it contributes to that goal differential. But then when they're good, they're good. Their goalie's good. They still got some skill at the top. And they're opportunistic. They hang around. It's like the Tuesday night. It was Tuesday night, right? At Little Caesars. They're getting just walloped in terms of shots and puck possession time and all that, and control of the game. They're kind of on their heels. And then the Wings have a little bit of a lull. JT Compher can't clear the puck. I want to say DeBrincat lost I think his stick broke. So it was sort of like a weird power play in terms of 5-on-4, at least in terms of sticks. The bodies were the same, but they couldn't get the puck out of the zone, and that's been an issue. And that's to your point about the defense overall, right? But Compher is a soft clear right up the middle, a hockey 101 no-no. Look, I know mistakes are made, but in the margins, in a game like that, when the season's on the line, more or less, you can't afford to have those. And then Perron has a pass to Sider. It goes off his skate. He loses his balance and touch. The loose puck ends up in Alex Ovechkin's hands, so to speak. And you're talking about one of the greatest snipers ever up the left side with an incredible shot at an impossible angle. Is it a little bit of a lucky shot? Sure, but it's also Ovechkin. And bam, and that was it. In the span of 2 minutes, the Ovechkin goal came with 7 seconds left in the second period. And that's it. And Lalonde talks about that too. Those are little plays in the margins. I would say, though, just to kind of wrap this up, and I know a lot of the fans don't want to hear this. The way they're playing right now, they've been playing better, but still sort of maybe 500 hockey the last 10 games or so. That would have been good enough. When they were actually pushing for a divisional spot in the playoffs, and they had the first wild card spot and a several point lead, and we're rolling. Obviously, then we're going to keep at that pace, Carlos, and win what they went 6 in a row or whatever it was, 9 out of 10 or points in 11 out of 12, whatever ridiculous streak that was. Fine, that wasn't sustainable, but it went the other way completely. They didn't just fall back to 500 hockey for a while. If they'd fallen back to 500 hockey, they'd probably be in the second wild card spot right now, and that to me is because of Dylan Larkin. So, yes, everything you say is true, and I understand the fan base's frustration, but the team Yzerman put together that had a little better injury luck would probably be a playoff team. Not a cup team, to your point, but a playoff team. If they'd had Larkin and could have stabilized them into some 500 hockey instead of the 6 or 7 games out of 8 or whatever it was they lost.
Absolutely. I mean, Patrick Kane has been the revelation, since they signed him in late part of last year. And he was hot. But yeah, you're right. Larkin, he's their captain and their leader. And, he plays both ways. He's, super responsible with the puck. He's the epitome of what Lalonde wants, on both ends of the rink. So, and I don't know. That's a question of what Yzerman's going to say. Is he going to pin it all like, hey, if we didn't lose Larkin for those games, things might have been different, just some bad luck later in the season. There's not much I could have done about that, or Lalonde could have done about that. But I'm going to be curious just to see where Yzerman, where he points the finger. I'm sure at himself to some extent, politically, but also how much more, where they need the help and where he's going to find it. Because it's the opportunity was there. It's just, these lulls, and we had it last year, right? When they played the Senators and they tanked in those 2 games against the Senators. It wasn't a good look either. So it's progress, but it's just been a little slow going.
No, for sure. And I guess the key is to give yourself as many chances as possible. That's true in the game itself. It's true over the course of a season with the way you build out a roster. And he's got to keep plugging so that you can survive when Larkin goes down for 7-8 games, whatever it was. I mean,
someone will.
Yeah, you're right, because every year you're gonna have that, and we'll see. All right, let's take a quick break and come back with more Free Press Sports with Carlos and Shawn and talk about the Tigers. Welcome back to Free Press Sports with Carlos and Shawn. All right, Carlos, let's talk about your other sport, baseball. This is a
Highlight or foosball.
This is a podcast that's all about you. I'm here to support you. Even when I disagree with you, that's a way of supporting you.
Oh,
yeah, that's how it goes, you know. Anyway, the Tigers. You want to talk about opening day?
we were both there, and I don't know if I'll see you again the rest of the season, but what were your impressions from the splendor that is home opening day?
I'm not one to, I probably am the wrong person to talk about that.
You're the perfect person.
No, because opening day is fun, and I respect its traditions in the sport and how much it means in particular cities, and Detroit is definitely one of them. And I love the buzz and the vibe, the fact that there's snow flurries. It seems like almost every opening day I think it's kind of fun in a way. There was extra buzz this year because they came in 5-1 against the Oakland A's, and they swept the White Sox and taken 2 out of 3 out of the Mets, and they were winning in sort of dramatic fashion. I think they were all one-run games every one of their first 6 games, if I'm not mistaken. I think they lost by 1 run too. In any case. Yeah, no. So that was fun. The bats though were an issue, but I don't know that any of us wrote about it that day because they won, and they have made them at that point 6-1. The bats though have continued to be an issue until I guess the 9th inning in Pittsburgh on what Tuesday night when they scored. What they score 4 runs in the top of the 9th, Carlos.
I believe so.
He got a 5-3 win, I think. So that means they were down 3-1 going in. Looked like same old. But yeah, no, opening day was fun. You know, I think you and I saw the pitching performance of the starter that day a little bit differently. But other than that, it was fun. It's always fun on opening day.
Yeah, it was. This start has been impressive, you know, and that's been the problem under AJ Hinch, has been the slow starts in March, April. And what are they right now is where they have an off day on Wednesday while we're recording this. And
then they play Minnesota 7-4.
Yep. They're 7-4, second place, tied for second in the division behind your Cleveland Guardians, who are 8-3. So, you know, this series should tell us more. The Twins are not great. They cut payroll. They said they would cut payroll. They've cut payroll, and it's kind of showing. They're having trouble scoring. So they're 3-6 right now, a few games back. So, and after this, they go right from playing the Twins for 4 games, and they host the Rangers, the defending World Series champion Rangers, for 4 games. So 8 games at home. It'll be a good chance to come and watch them and get an up close look at the team against, you know, better competition for sure. I think although the Pirates are off to a good start themselves, but they had some weak competition, you know, Chicago White Sox, Mets, A's, not great. Pirates got a little lucky, but they found a way to win. Give them credit for that. They split the 2-game series in Pittsburgh. So, you know, the pitching's there, you know, they're not letting teams run away. They know they're not going to be able to score a lot of runs. And that's been the plan under Scott Harris, is better pitching, you know, very good bullpen right now. Keep it close and maybe make a little charge at the end. And you know, there's always going to be something, right? There's going to be injury. Someone's going to get hurt. Someone's going to not have a great game or regress or struggle or whatever. You know, right now Spencer Torkelson is not off to a fast start yet again. If they get more out of him, that will be helpful. But it's been kind of fun to watch them be opportunistic and win these games that have been winnable. I give them a lot of credit for not getting swept in Pittsburgh against the hot Pirates. So everybody thought that, you know, the Twins have been kind of at the top of the division for a few years, and everybody thought, well, it's going to be the Twins again. And I thought, yeah, the Twins would be there, but I also thought Cleveland might be there this year. And now, you know, it's very early in the season, and things can and will change. But it's going to be, you know, it's maybe the weakest division in baseball. So maybe they don't have to do that much, Shawn. Maybe they just need to steal a win here and there, and that's just going to be enough to hang around close to the top of the division toward the end of the season and do something. It's a long way to go, but I like the start so far. It's been kind of fun.
Yeah, no, the resiliency, or whatever cliche you want to use, the comeback in the 9th against Pittsburgh, that felt like an important win. Look, I know 162 games, how much importance you're going to put in a single game early, but you know, things can, we were talking about momentum in hockey and how things can kind of get rolling. I mean, Jim Leland used to say all the time, hey, there's no momentum in baseball. It's just whatever the next day's starting pitcher is. That's it. And for sure, obviously, that's a true statement. But that means that there's no such thing as collective psychology in baseball when there is such a thing in every other team sport on the planet. So I get it. Baseball is unique in a way that it's a bunch of individuals who happen to wear the same uniform, and everybody has their own sort of responsibilities, and one doesn't necessarily relate to the other. It's not like a football play where you got to have 10 guys, 11 guys doing the same thing to make one person with the ball successful, or the opposite on defense, not successful. So I understand that, but it felt like an important win, many important win early on, because they were scuffling, and not that what would their record have been, 6-5? Not that 6-5 is the end of the world, but in any case, they are fun. They showed the opportunism early in the season. Well, it is early in the season. Sorry, the first couple series of the season, admittedly against bad teams and the White Sox and the Mets, but still, you got to beat those teams. You beat those teams and then find a way to go in Cleveland and get a game. Right? Maybe occasionally take 2 or 3 in Detroit. That's how you hang around. Win a few you're not supposed to, and against the good teams, and beat the teams you should, or at least in theory. So that's a formula that seems to work when you're pretty solid defensively and really good in the bullpen, and at least solid starters, right? I mean, I don't know if their starters are great. They got one potentially great starter, but beyond Skubal, I mean, do they have anybody that looks to you like can be dominant?
Not dominant. Jack Flaherty's look good, but not, I wouldn't. That's the thing, right? Like, you can dream of all these things of, maybe they'll squeak into, they'll win the division somehow and get into the playoffs or whatever. Like, yeah, what are they going to do? Is Skubal going to have to pitch, every game? I mean, it'll be tough. And maybe there's some, shenanigans, some magic that AJ Hinch could figure out with the bullpen and some short starts from other guy. I don't know, but it's at least fun to think that there's some hope for this team to be, by August, it's not over. So, I want to see how this bears out. I want to see if the offense can hit the offense. That's the thing with the Tigers, right? Right now, they're 7-4, 1 game back in the division. They looked good against, yes, bad teams, but they look, good, competitive. The Cleveland Guardians are leading the division by 1 game, 8-3. Their run scoring differential plus 34 runs. The Tigers plus 0. They're even 38 runs against, 30 runs scored. So you can't. That's not sustainable. You can't keep winning and being near the top of the division at even par. So yeah, something's gonna have to change. And again, Torkelson might heat up. They've already had to bench Javi Baez, once. They've had to sit him down. That's going to continue to be a problem. And that's the tough part right now, is that, how do you handle the lineup? And then, that's a difficult position for AJ Hinch. He had to carry the albatrosses that were Miguel Cabrera and Javi Baez last year. Now he's just got Baez, so that's a little bit of a help, but you got to handle, questions about benching him. Should you bench him? Why did you bench him? Why isn't this guy playing? Why isn't, McKinstry and this and that? But so far, it's been a nice little start for them. Can they continue it through the rest of April? They're going to have, they're going to have to go on the road pretty soon. They have to go get, to Tampa, although Tampa's not off to a great start either, so they don't have the toughest schedule right now in April, so they might be able to continue this momentum, at least give themselves a good start and give themselves a little bit of as much of a cushion as they can early in the season. And it's kind of been the opposite of what they've done in the past, but they can set themselves up, getting into the warmer months, that it's not out of the question that they can hang around a little more offense.
No, for sure. I mean, that's the thing, that you get off to this kind of start hitting the way you're hitting. You're right. You can look at that. You look at the run differential and you're like, okay, that's not sustainable. That's the half glass empty. But the optimistic view is that, wow, they're 7-4. Yes, against how many times do I have to say it seems that are great. But the fact that you're 7-4 and you're not hitting, you're not going to hit like this team did when they had Cabrera and Martinez and all those guys, but you got to, I would think, hit a little bit better than you hit. I mean, Torkelson and Green have both shown they can hit some. Torkelson, especially with the power. I don't know about the on-base percentage or slugging percentage, or I'm not. Can we even use the phrase batting average anymore? Is that even allowed?
It's forbidden. You can't say batting average.
Is that sacrilege?
OPS plus. We can get into WAR. We can get into exit velocities and stuff, but you cannot say batting average. You're a dumb bumpkin from.
In any case, Torkelson has power, right?
Yeah,
and so if he can get back to hitting with power, even though he's not going to probably get on a lot. And then Riley Green can presumably do both. He can hit with some power, and then he's a better contact hitter than Torkelson. So those guys get going a little bit. Can you say contact hitter anymore, by the way? Those guys get going a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll help. By the way, my boy Parker Meadows at least is getting on base. Great little havoc when he's getting on base.
Not hitting a lot, but he's getting on base. So his on-base percentage and OPS is a little bit better. So
yeah. The Billy Bean special. That's where
how you get on base. Just get on base.
Yeah, just exactly. Just get on base. And it's true. The math supports that. Obviously, I mean that's been established for a long time. It's not like we're bucking that grain here. But in any case, no, I'm with you. Hopefully they'll be interesting, and I think they have the chance to be interesting for a while. And that's really all you can ask in the rebuild, right?
Yeah, the yet again another rebuild that keeps going on under Illich Olympia Enterprises. So yeah, and you know what? They showed the Wings. You can win. A Detroit team can win in Pittsburgh, so maybe that'll spur them on against the Penguins. But yeah, there's hope here. It's not some desert of patheticness. There is hope. There's a plan. There's some young players, some vets in the mix, and then you have a potential, really good potential star pitcher here in Skubal. So it'll be interesting to watch. And I think that's all you can hope for, really. Baseball is give us an interesting product that gives us a reason to watch, to go to the games, to go to the stadium and see how it plays out in a weak division. It could happen.
No, it absolutely could. So we will keep an eye on the Tigers. Obviously, the Wings, if they lose at Pittsburgh, that's probably it. That's probably it because then they're putting two teams ahead of them unless the Capitals lose that night. I guess I think they play Thursday as well. I'm trying to remember who they play, but yeah. In any case, we'll keep an eye on the Tigers, and hopefully we'll want to keep an eye on them for a long time. At least I don't know. Can we get to July? Would that be nice?
Absolutely.
I think that would be great. All right, let's take one more quick break and return with Carlos's favorite thing, which is my favorite part of the show, when we come back with more Free Press Sports with Carlos and Shawn. Welcome back to Free Press Sports with Carlos and Shawn. Carlos, it's that time of the show. I get to hear what made you happy, and that makes me happy.
I'm glad I can help, Shawn. This one's interesting because it's something I haven't felt this in a little while, but it's the week of the Masters, and traditionally for a lot of people, I think it signals the start of golf season and watching golf and playing golf, certainly in the Midwest and cold weather states. And I haven't been too excited about the Masters for a while. But I think part of it was we were out of town and visiting relatives and my in-laws. And, there's a bunch of golfers in the family, and they're going on an annual trip that I've been on before. I'm not going this year, but just talking to my nephews and my brother-in-law about, the Masters and Tiger Woods and can he win and who's your pick? And it was just fun to kind of revisit that. I hadn't done that in a while. We haven't been there in a while around this time, around Easter time. And so it was nice, and then it just made me kind of miss this tournament a little bit. And even if Tiger Woods may not be a favorite like he used to be, and exciting and swashbuckling and all that on the course, the tournament does remind us, the golf fans out there, that it's time to get the sticks out, clean them off, go buy some new balls, some new gloves, sharpen up, work on the game a little bit, sharpen it up, and go on and have some fun. Spend 4 hours with your closest friends. So yeah, it made me a little bit excited to look forward to the week of the Masters.
Really? Have you lost your taste for golf a little bit overall as you get older?
A little bit. I had a little bit, but I think, I don't play as much as I used to for various reasons. And but yeah, I hope to play more this year. Sometimes, life takes us in different directions, and I used to play a lot. A lot. So that certainly was not going to be sustainable. But yeah, I hope to. And it was also, while I was out of town, I got an invite for some friends to play. And of course I couldn't because I wasn't here, but hopefully I do get to tee it up a little bit more this year.
Well, I know my sons want to play with you.
Yeah, we should. We've been trying to make that happen, and it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, they want to do that. So hopefully
just tell them I don't take Venmo or crypto. It's just hard cash. So
okay, yeah, I'll tell them that. I know they want to do that, so maybe we can make that happen. So for me, Carlos, it's tough to choose. It's actually easy to choose in terms of the experience, but the experience I had that's my favorite thing is part of a larger sort of experience that I had in journalism this past week. I don't even know where to start. I don't want to make this too long, but before I was a sports writer, I was a news side writer. I actually started out, believe it or not. I mean, I started off in the business covering whatever I could cover. You're trying to break in school boards, county commissioners boards, whatever. But I really kind of broke into the business, oddly enough, as a medical writer, doing medical features and hanging out in ORs, all that. And that led to a feature writing job, which eventually got me to the Free Press. And there's a very specific kind of feature that we don't do in journalism. I'm not saying, this isn't a get off my lawn, we should do it this way. It's just how our business has changed and the tastes have changed and what readers wanted and all that sort of thing. But metropolitan newspapers like the Free Press used to have a handful of writers, sometimes more, whose jobs were to go out and trends or events or breaking news. Sometimes they wouldn't cover direct breaking news, but maybe write a longer piece, try to find a little bit more meaning in it or illuminate some of the human side of what is breaking. But sometimes it was something as simple as a guy, at a cherry pit spitting contest, whatever. But I made my way in this business doing that, doing this. I don't want to give the word inches here because I've been writing a very specific length kind of feature story, either off the news or just something quirky. And I had the opportunity to go do that the other day, recently, I should say, with the Eclipse. And the news side of our paper sent me to Tiffin, Ohio, in the Path of Totality. And that itself was just really cool. It got really, really dark. And that was kind of wild. But in those almost 4 minutes where it got dark, and by the way, when I say dark, it was night dark above. Like it was, the people next to me were sort of silhouettes a little bit. It was night dark above. And if you can imagine looking up and then seeing darkness out both on your peripheral vision, both ways, all the way down to the horizon, not quite to the horizon, and then seeing a little bit of sunlight, almost like a sunset, a little slower sunset on both sides, sort of spilling out. That's what it was like. So if you look up, it looked like night, but yet there's this pool of sunlight through a couple of creases on the horizon. So it's just, I've never seen anything like that. In that space, in that atmosphere, 130 couples got married out in the open under that eclipse. All kinds of ages, all manner of dress style, all sorts of reasons. And I was down there with Ryan Garza, who's a fabulous photographer at the Free Press, and just spent the day down there and wrote a story about it. And then spent 4 hours in a car trying to get home because the traffic was so bad. I've never seen anything like that. And that was really great. And I haven't done that in a long time, and I've forgotten how much I enjoy that and how liberating that was. A couple days earlier, I got to write a column about a former colleague of mine who started a vodka company and has connections to a potato farm, left our business. So I got to write about somebody who took a chance to make a big career change in the middle of his life. And that's not easy to do. I know a lot of people do that. And I wanted to write about that and what baseball writing. So those two things were very similar. They may not seem similar. The experiences were very different, but the idea of going out and writing something and just taking not that I wanted to take a break from sports, but just exploring the world a little bit outside of the arenas and stadiums and practice facilities that we're in all the time, which is a great way to make a living, no doubt. But but to get the chance to get outside of that for a second and explore the rest of the world just for a minute was awesome.
That's great. Yeah. So you're basically counting down the days until college basketball tips off again, right? Is that trying to figure out how to keep yourself busy?
Oh, well, the NBA is still around, although that's lost a little bit of its luster. No, we got football, man. We got a draft coming up, then we got mini camp. I mean, the Lions are going to keep us busier more so this summer than probably since I've been at the Free Press. I mean, maybe not for Dave Burkett, but no, even for Dave Burkett, because there's just so much interest.
Not for Dave Burkett, actually, but yeah.
There's just so much interest, and the NFL doesn't stop. But in any case, yeah, no, sports are great, but it's fun to get out there and see something different from time to time.
Absolutely.
So, all right, who do we need to thank?
Oh, who do we? Our producer, Robin Chan, who keeps us going, keeps us in business, and does the same thing very well for us all the time. Doesn't take a break and abandon us. So Robin Chan always gets our appreciation. Our executive producers, Kirkland Crawford, who's our sports editor, and Anjanet Delgado, executive editor of the Free Press, and Free Press editor Nicole Avery Nichols, who signs the paychecks and keeps the heat on. But most importantly, Shawn, you know who it is.
Oh, well, the listeners, you. Thanks for staying with us. Thanks for listening to all this hockey talk, all this baseball talk, all this talk about hippies getting married in a field. Well, not a field, but in an amphitheater in the middle of Ohio. It's what we do, though. We're citizens of the world here, Carlos, right?
That's right.
Yeah, that's what we do. So, no, thanks for tuning in and checking us out. As always, you can find us wherever you find your favorite podcast. When you get there, rate us, subscribe, please. Let us know what you think. We are very, very grateful, as always, for your listenership every week. And Carlos, until next week, when we're back with more Free Press Sports with Carlos and Shawn, it's always good to see you, bud.
Likewise.